Hello, and welcome to the Gameplay Cast's review for the first-person adventure game Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. It's been a long time since the last Indiana Jones game, the last outing being a weird adventure game for Facebook back in 2011. So yeah, it's been a while. Equally, I think it's fair to say that not many, if in fact any of the franchise's video games, have managed to emulate the success of the movies, of which there are only 3 by the way. So I think we're long overdue a top quality Indiana Jones game. Enter Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. As you would expect, this is an adventure game. It's also probably no surprise that it takes heavy inspiration from the movies. The story centres on the search for the Great Circle, following the theft of a cat mummy from the Marshall College Museum. Consequently, Indy must sneak, punch and plunder his way around the world to stop the forces of evil. And in this game, as with the movies, that means only one thing. And I don't know if you can say this on YouTube, but Yahtzees. Just in case. Before we get to that though, it's time for the all-important question. Did Bethesda manage to find fortune and glory? Or will this game wither and die like a man who drank from the wrong cup? Well, fans of the series might enjoy this game, as will those looking for a basic adventure game. But there are some real issues here, one of which being that $70 launch price. Anyway, keep watching to delve into the mysteries of this title, as well as to uncover its final score out of 10. The best thing about this game, and probably its saving grace, is the exploration of the tombs, crypts and catacombs. The devs have done a good job in creating these spaces. There's a good level of detail in the design, plenty of hidden areas, and a lot of torch waving in the dark. It genuinely had me looking in every nook and cranny for secrets and treasure. Here it does feel like an Indiana Jones game, probably because, in my opinion, they've taken inspiration directly from the movies, but I'll come back to this later. Complementing the exploration, and for want of a better word, tomb raiding, is the game's puzzles, most of which are actually decent, and rely, at least on the harder setting, on your powers of observation as well as a small amount of logical thinking. Yeah, a few, maybe even most, are rather pedestrian, but on the whole, I didn't find the puzzle offering to be lacking. If I had to pick fault, I definitely think they could have pushed the boat out a bit further and offered some truly challenging brain teasers. But all in all, not bad. And when paired with some of the exploration, it really comes together and grabs you. The voice actors all give solid performances. Troy Baker's Indiana is pretty much bang on the money. If there's any criticism here, it's more that the script writing could have been a bit tighter, but all in all, he does a really good impersonation and the supporting cast is equally as good. This is where things turn a little bit south, unfortunately. The graphics in the game are a bit of a mixed bag. Sometimes they look good and we get some decent textures and lighting effects. They have clearly put some effort into making Indy look, well, like Indy. Unfortunately, at other times, there are some truly strange textures that look like something from the Xbox 360 era. I mean, look at this cat. It looks bizarre. Equally, in contrast to Indy, most of the NPCs look super generic and low quality. They had lots of weird facial expressions that reminded me of Max Payne. Anyway, while not game breaking, the low quality elements degrade what could have been a good looking game. All in all, I just can't shake that feeling of an Xbox 360 game. Lastly, I want to give the devs credit for adding a few additional mechanics to try and break up the main gameplay loop. Things like fighting a few of the bosses or being the gunner on a plane breaks up the rhythm and is a hallmark of good games. I just wish they'd added a lot more. Okay, let's start with the elephant in the room, and my defense for anyone in the comments claiming this game is great. The stealth mechanics are completely broken. There is no ifs, no buts, they are terrible. You can knock a guy out with a spade, and his friend who is 2 meters away won't hear anything. The only benefit being that this generally makes it much easier to sneak around the game, disabling the bad guys. On top of this, the enemy AI is also terrible. And yeah, I just don't see how you can really defend this system in any way. The idea is there, but the execution is terrible, and needed a lot more work. It also gets pretty repetitive, which is probably one of the reasons the game adds disguises for each of the 3 large areas. It would be torture finding all the collectibles without those. Additionally, the fist fighting just feels like the system from Skyrim, which is awful. Yeah, they added push, dodge and counter buttons, but you very rarely, if ever, get a chance to use them, as most fights you end up being ganked by enemies, so if you start trying to dodge and parry, you just get KO'd by the other attackers. I think the only time I actually fought properly was the boxing side quests, where it was a fixed one-on-one, and even then, you just have to master the counter mechanic and they can barely land a punch. For most of the game, I just resorted to pummeling people as fast as possible, or just using items to knock people out from behind. It just never hit the mark for me as a satisfying mechanic, and whenever I got into a fight, I just wanted it to be over as soon as possible. As a result, most of the areas with bad guys became quite dull and repetitive, nowhere near as engaging as the exploration and puzzles. Occasionally I did try the head-on approach, and just grab a few guns and go on an all-out assault, but the gunplay is equally as bad. There's no zoom on any of the weapons, but enemies can just dead-eye you from across the map. And even with all the upgrades, Indy reloads his gun like he actually is current-day Harrison Ford. Towards the end of the game, I got so bored with the stealth stuff, I just resorted to trying to kill everyone in the area, a task which often became tedious in itself. To add to these frustrations, the game has some irritating mechanics that just become tiresome, not immersive as they were probably intended. For example, having to use the left analog stick to turn keys and open things after already equipping the key and then pressing X. It's like 3 buttons to open a locked door. It's really irritating and pointless, particularly when the camera zooms right into the door so you can't see what you're doing anyway. Don't get me wrong, this is a good feature for the puzzles and for some of the exploration elements, but not every single minor door. Constantly dropping items anytime you do something is annoying too. I can't keep hold of something I've picked up while I put a bandage on or use some food, so once that's done I have to go pick it back up, assuming I can find it and it hasn't melded into the scenery. Not being able to shoot aggressive attack dogs. This one is particularly retarded. I can literally shoot other humans in the head, who all miraculously survive by the way, but I can't shoot a vicious military attack dog that's trying to rip my arm off. Whoever made this call at Bethesda is a retard. And their replacement system of shooting near them or whipping them, it just doesn't work. The dogs sit down for a few seconds, and then as soon as you turn your back, they attack you. And also surely killing a human is a greater crime than killing a dog? It's bizarre. Moreover, while I enjoyed the exploration of the main dungeons of the story, I never felt like the Great Circle made much sense, or was a mystery I was really invested in solving. Having now 100% at the game, I honestly can't really explain what the Great Circle is. I think it's a circle of temples where magic stones were hidden, guarded by an order of giants. But as a result, the story lacks the gravitas of the movies. Well, Raiders and Crusade at least. The hunt for Excalibur or some other tangible legendary item would have been better. And don't get me wrong, they throw something in at the end there that's of that calibre. I don't want to ruin it, so I'm not going to say what it is, but it kind of comes out of left field. And while I get it, it would have been better in my opinion if the game had been about finding this thing from the start. And you probably could have renamed the game to have a better title than The Great Circle. There's also times where modernity creeps into the game, and while it's certainly not a woke game, you can see the influence. The biggest example probably being the openly lesbian Egyptian boss lady in the 1930s. She is only a minor supporting character, so her part is pretty minimal, but it does end with her in a full male pinstripe suit getup, which just comes out of nowhere. I think there's also a sprinkling of suspect dialogue at times, but thankfully it's more occasionally jarring due to the historical inaccuracies / modernity than full Dragon Age. Oh, and I forgot to say previously, but I wanted to add in that the game has also implemented the irritating habit of the sidekick repeatedly telling you what to do, over and over again, like you're on the phone to your bank and they keep telling you how important your call is every 30 seconds. Indy, use the amulet here. Indy, use the amulet here. Indy, shut up! I'm having flashbacks to Navi now, thank you.
Hey, listen!
Overall, the game's biggest crime is it's far too reliant on nostalgia from the movies. The Vatican is basically Venice from The Last Crusade, then we get Egypt from Raiders. I mean, the game even recreates the opening sequence from Raiders blow for blow. Now I don't dislike this recreation, it's a clumsy homage, but it's a homage nonetheless. My issue is that by mimicking the beats of the film so closely, it just ends up feeling like a poor man's version. It would have been better to have just made this into a version of Raiders of the Lost Ark, a direct movie game so players can relive all of the awesome scenes from the movie. This way the developers could take advantage of the much more thrilling and better written classic adventure, where the nostalgia is genuine instead of being repurposed. The game is at its absolute best when you are exploring secret tombs, solving puzzles, and discovering ancient relics. This was for me by far the most enjoyable bit, and was overall pretty fun. The problem is that it's only one element of the game. Ultimately, this is a mostly soulless adventure game that relies on the nostalgia and member berries from the movies to get you through, a lot of which are kind of direct copy and paste. I don't think the game is super woke, and there are certainly no lectures on non-binary pronouns, though modernity does seep into the game in parts, such as the aforementioned openly lesbian boss woman who's in a multicultural relationship in 1930s Egypt. Stuff like this is jarring and certainly not realistic for the time and setting. Equally, Indy himself often makes reference to returning things to where they belong, and there are some other niggles where Bethesda clearly couldn't help themselves. The reason I mention all this is because of the dude in one of the announcement trailers that had everyone worried about the game being super woke, so I just wanted to confirm that it's not woke, but it does have some modern elements. Overall, the game lacks polish in a lot of areas, is broken in some, and is damn right glitchy in others. I suppose we shouldn't be surprised, since bugs and glitches are now synonymous with Bethesda. So why would this game be any different? All that being said, I did enjoy playing through an Indiana Jones adventure, albeit a mediocre one. Speaking of mediocrity, this brings me to my overall verdict, which is a bang average 5 out of 10. It's far from the worst game I've ever played, and as a big fan of the movies, some of the nostalgic moments and fan service was appreciated. However, the Skyrimian fist-fighting mechanic lacks refinement and becomes stale quickly, as does the gunplay. The stealth system is horrible and broken, the story is pretty meh, and that, on top of all the other blatant issues, drag this game down. As if to prove my point, I'm stuck on the last achievement because the last note in Sukhothai has glitched out. Anyway, I think it's a real shame that Bethesda weren't a lot more ambitious with this title, as I think in some ways there is a core of something that could have been great. But the end result is not what you would expect from a studio the size of Bethesda, and it's certainly not worth the $70 price tag in my opinion. If you have Xbox Game Pass, give it a go. Otherwise, I'd give it a miss, or at least save your money for the inevitable fire sale. So it seems the wait must continue for that legendary Indiana Jones game. Anyway, that marks the end of this crusade. Adios, Tatibo, and as always, f*** Erebus.